I messed up tonight. I lost another fight. I still mess up, but I'll just start again. I keep falling down. I keep on hitting the ground. I always get enough to see what's next. Birds don't just fly, they fall down and get up. Nobody learns without getting it wrong. I won't give up, no I won't give in till I reach the end and then I'll start again. No I won't leave, I wanna try everything. I wanna try even though I could fail.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Zootopia Minute, the minute-by-minute podcast where we review and analyze everybody's favorite hit movie of 2016, Zootopia. My name is Simul, and I will be your host today, and as always, I am joined by my co-host...
Choco, and I'm back after another hiatus break thingy-majiggy. And Simul, you sound chipper today. How are you been since then?
I've been pretty good. Yeah, we both been pretty busy. We got a lot of con stuff coming up, and we just sort of came from a lot of con stuff, so the grind don't stop. But neither does this podcast, so we are back now for another episode. This is going to be minute 70 of the film Zootopia, so for those of you following along at home, that is going to be from timestamp 1:10:00 to 1:10:59. And this minute begins with Judy on the line, "We did this together," speaking to Nick, because she's about to go up and give a press conference. Nick says, well, he's not a cop, at which point Judy produces an application for the police department and wants to get Nick to join, and they have sort of a nice little moment there until Assistant Mayor Bellwether, who I suppose is just the mayor now, maybe, invites Officer Hops up onto the stand to begin her press conference. She begins this press conference. She calls on one beaver reporter guy to give the question, and he asks, what can you tell us about the animals going savage? To which she replies, well, the animals in question, and looks at Nick, remembering what we heard in the last minute about how to do press conferences, and she responds to that question with her own question, are they all different species? Yes. And then the minute ends. So an interesting minute we have here, mostly dialogue stuff going on. Should be interesting to see how this press conference starts out, for sure. That's what I'm excited about. Anything stick out to you at all from this minute? First thoughts?
Okay, yeah, but one thing that stuck out for me was I noticed a lot of pig characters in the crowds. And these aren't wild pigs. Yeah, they won't be wild boars. They look more like domesticated pigs, which, whatever.
We've talked about that before. So far, all the pig characters we've seen do have, like, the pink skin and the curly tail. And I think that's literally, like, you're right. These pigs wouldn't exist in a world without humans. That's what domesticated pigs look like. But I really think it's just for the benefit of, like, kids watching in the theater that don't know what a boar is, you know? They think pig, they think the cute pink animal they see in farms.
So I'm surprised they haven't done this. I'm sure it'll get backlash, but with all the pigs, I'm surprised they didn't put one of them in the cop uniform yet.
Oh gosh, you think this is the message they're trying to send? Hey, cops are good.
That's what got Sylvester in a Magic Pebble band.
Yeah, that's why they're doing this conference. So a few things I wanna point out here. So first of all, this is an interesting moment here for Nick and Judy, isn't it? Because what we see here, Nick had been giving Judy advice about how to do the press conference, and Judy kind of wants him up there with her because they did it together. Well, Nick says, well, am I a cop? No, I'm not. Judy says, funny you should say that because, well, I've been thinking it would be nice to have a partner. And she brings out this application. It looks like a police application to join the force, and gives it to Nick. And Nick has this sort of like surprised look on his face where he's like, oh wow, I can't believe she's actually like doing this. And then on top of that, here, in case he needs something to write with, and Judy gives Nick that carrot pen to write with. And that's significant, isn't it? Because that's the pen that she used to record his sort of inadvertent confession to tax evasion earlier. So Judy is now surrendering her blackmail material on Nick. It's sort of a way of her saying, hey, I trust you. Thank you for doing what you did to help.
Yeah, it's kind of a nice little double meaning thing here. You need a pen to fill up your application, and yeah, it's the same blackmail pen I used on you.
I know, right? It's like... She's been wanting to do that all day. It's like, oh, it'd be so funny if I did this. I mean, that is interesting because, again, the whole reason Nick even was tagging along with her to begin with is because she did have this blackmail material. And it makes you wonder, like, if you're going to apply to be on the police, they do background checks and stuff, right? And they, you know, you're going to be under more scrutiny than you normally would be. And it seems like Nick kind of, up until now, has tried to keep a low profile in his life, maybe. So I don't know. It's kind of a big, almost, I want to say from Judy's perspective, like, if I were Judy, I wouldn't necessarily assume that that's something Nick would even really be interested in. You know what I mean?
Initially, again, he was with her because of the blackmail, and then we remember he kind of had a change of heart halfway through when he saw Bogo kind of acting rude to her.
That's true, but she still did have it, right? So, I mean, you're right. Their trust has been growing a bit more between then, and we've had some tender moments, such as the gondola ride, right? When Nick kind of opens up to her about his past a bit. So, I mean, this is interesting character development for sure, but it does make me wonder, like, if you're applying for the police, I'd be a little worried about them finding out about the criminal tax evasion thing. Like, even though you have the recording back, like, are you watertight? Are you good?
Well, okay, so this is something that I kind of wanted to bring in. Like, again, we're tangentially related to folks in the furry community, but I remember the other week, for some reason, there was a lot of, I think there's like a furry attorney or furry lawyer, and he kind of brought up how Zootopia was not, I'm not sure, not saying that he thought it was bad, but he was like kind of pointing out what Judy was doing was kind of like, you know, doing corrupt cop stuff. And I was like, oh, I guess that's kind of true. And that she shouldn't be held up to be a role model because she's just doing corrupt cop stuff, which I thought was kind of funny.
Yeah, I mean, even though here we're now seeing the fruition of all her efforts, her and Nick's efforts, like, cool, she's a rookie, she got these missing mammals, like, all in one go, awesome, but, like, still, is anyone gonna really trust Judy as a reference for this new guy? That like, nothing about this is by the books, you know what I mean? This is so unorthodox for a cop to, like, blackmail a civilian into helping them with an ongoing case where, like, the public's not even supposed to really be privy to a lot of this, right? Nothing here was done by the books, and so it's kind of odd that I guess Judy just feels like now she has leverage against Bogo, like an I told you so kind of thing, where it's like, cool. But honestly, we've been saying this many times before, they have been hard on Judy in the police department, but she's a rookie. It's kind of to be expected. So I feel like it's presumptive of Judy to assume that, like, just because this was the outcome, that means, like, oh, they're also going to give me a partner and it's going to be this random guy that helped me.
I'm sure she has some sway now, especially if she took down the mayor.
That's true. Yeah. And she does, you know what? I bet Bellwether might help her with some of this stuff too.
Yeah, now that I think Bellwether, who was assistant mayor, is now the mayor, so
I guess so.
I think she has some pull.
She's the interim mayor or whatever.
Fun.
We had that recently. So Seattle, where I live, our previous mayor before the current one, he was going to run for re-election, and then there was this controversy about some people back in the 80s that claimed that he molested them when they were young boys, I guess. And that became a whole huge thing. And so he's like, yeah, I'm not going to run for re-election. And now we have a different mayor. But he didn't go to jail. He just didn't run for re-election. And that was kind of, I don't know if I've heard much about it afterwards.
All right. Well, I guess kind of related to current events. I kind of, this is a police press conference, and I was just looking at a recent police press conference that the NYPD did to apologize for what happened at Stonewall, apologizing to the gay community on Pride Month. I just thought it was kind of funny that one of the original cops that was there during Stonewall was like, why should we apologize? We kind of created the modern civil rights movement. I'm just like, really? But yeah. Cute bunnies. We have a cute bunny cop talking, so yeah.
Well, speaking of Assistant Mayor Bellwether, whatever her involvement is, if she is the mayor or not, she says, Officer Hops, it's time. Judy kind of gives Nick a glance back, gives a cross of her fingers for good luck, walks up to the podium, and we hear Chief Bogo ending what he was saying. He's sort of describing that, hey, all the people we found are in good health. You know, they seem to be all right. Everything's fine. So now I'll turn things over to the officer who cracked the case, Officer Judy Hops. And Judy Hops walks up, and it's kind of funny because Bogo's so tall, right? And like seeing Judy come up to the same podium after the fact, it's like such a crazy difference. Although it looks as though the microphones, because like now there's this scene where, you know, everyone's taking photos and there's this view behind Judy looking back over the crowd, and you see all these press clamored around everywhere. You know, flashing cameras, people with booms holding up up and Officer Ops, can you answer? We have a question over here, Officer Ops. And all these microphones from these news agencies are kind of pointed at where her height would be. So it looks like they kind of planned that out. Kind of neat too is if you look at the microphones, you can kind of get a good look at some of the logos they have on these. They're kind of modeled off existing stuff. At least ZNN. That's obviously a CNN pun, right?
Yes.
I think my favorite out of here, there's some logo. Do you see the purple one on the left that it's like a paw print, but it almost looks like the Disney logo, like Mickey Mouse. And it's like, I wonder if that was deliberate or not.
Oh, the one right by the paw print one?
I'm talking about the paw print. Or, yeah, I guess there's two paw print ones, yeah.
So the first one kind of looks like the Alibaba symbol on the farthest left.
Oh, it does. Weird.
The second one looks kind of, you could see it's kind of Disney. And the third one, I just keep on thinking of weed.
The third one is the Smoke Weed Every Day channel.
Yeah, it's just like, oh, okay, weed.
Yeah, I think that's probably a palm tree. It's probably for like Sahara Square or whatever.
So it's weird. They put all this animal puns on the left-hand side, and on the right-hand side, it's just boring numbers.
Numbers. ZNN, that's one.
I mean, that's
my favorite is the one over to the right at the very top. It's Action 5 News, but it's spelled like GNUS.
Oh.
Action News. Action GNUs. So they got even more animal puns in there.
Yeah, and I like that there's also very, very tiny microphones right in front of Judy that I'm guessing is from the rodent press corps.
Right. That's so funny, though, because like if you had a smaller microphone, it would affect your audio quality. That's going to be like really tinny sound. There's not going to be a whole lot of bass.
Oh, boo. Don't judge the physics of this animal world.
It's true.
I guess that's our job anyways.
Yeah. Well, Judy's up there on the podium, and behind her are all these pictures of the recovered animals, the missing mammals, which is kind of nice.
I want to bring that up because the first picture that I could see completely clearly is a polar bear in the background. And for some reason, that polar bear picture just reminds me of the polar bear picture in season 2 of Agrisuko, where her mom's trying to get her into the dating scene and arrange the dates with...
Yeah, I think that picture's
the Photoshop polar bear.
I can see the pixels, Mom! Oh, gosh, that's a good show. Agretsuko, season 2 out now. Everybody go watch it.
Yeah,
it's pretty great on Netflix.
The funny thing is we keep on trying to compare the physics of this world with BoJack's world. I think we're going to start comparing it to Agrisuko as well, so...
It's closer to Agretsuko, because in BoJack there are also humans.
Yeah.
But in this there are not.
So we see all the animals in the background, which is kind of an interesting way to do it. I guess they were all the missing mammals, so I guess you would put them in the background. But I can't think of any other police press conference where it's like, oh yeah, we'll just put all the pictures in the background. It's like,
Hey, this is state of the art. You've seen their police department, like their central district. Everything is so like sleek and fancy and high tech looking. Like I feel like the city, like they got some money floating around in their police department, I guess, to like pretty things up.
Maybe. All right.
Well, Judy does receive one question here. There's all these reporters clamoring for attention, and she points to a beaver from Action 5 News, apparently, GNews. Yes. What can you tell us about the animals going savage? And Judy is kind of like, she's not sure what to say. The animals in question, just stalling for time. And then she glances over at Nick, who sort of gives her an encouraging gesture, like, yes, come on, keep going. And she then remembers the advice that Nick gave her in the previous minute to turn every question she gets into a different question and then answer that question. Are they all different species? Yes. And that's the last line of the minute. So she gets one question out in this minute. But she successfully followed Nick's advice there. So we can hope at least that this press conference will go very well for Judy. But we'll have to wait and see.
Yeah, let's see how things go with this press conferences. Press conferences are fun, especially if you guys watch any press conferences coming up lately.
Yeah, everyone knows press conferences always go perfectly well. There's never any issues. This'll be fine, guys.
It will be fine. Well, I wish I had a supported fox in the wing just giving me, some support, but can't happen. Too bad.
Emotional support fox.
I know, emotional support.
I bet people have those as emotional support animals, like trying to bring them onto airplanes.
No,
like,
that's what happened
You can't bring a fox in this airplane, sir.
No, that's what happened at I think it was Midwest Fur Fest last year. It was one
of course it's a furry con.
It was one of the furry cons I was at last year, and someone brought their pet fox in as emotional support fox, and everyone was like kind of freaking out on Twitter, and the guy who owns a pet fox, the famous famous guy in the fandom who owns a pet fox, was kind of tweeting out, that no, foxes are not supposed to be emotional support animal. They're still wild animals, and they shouldn't be in this environment. They could get scared or bite. And the pictures of the fox at the con made it look like he was very, very scared because all those people were huddled around him.
Yeah.
And for some reason, I don't want to be kind of rude, but furry cons are just not on it. Like, they're not on game. Like, at a anime con, Comic Con, or Bronycon, if, like, there's some type of issue, the con seems to address it right away, but the furry con just was kind of lingering in the background, not doing anything, and eventually the person kind of left on their own free will when the issue was resolved. But I was just really surprised that they didn't have a response one way or the other to deal with that.
We've talked about that before, not on the podcast per se, but yeah, I mean, and there's been recent issues at some furry cons that we probably shouldn't get into right now, but yeah, I don't know. Emotional support animals, there's been airlines recently that have been trying to crack down on that a bit more, where people basically just use it as an excuse to bring like any pet they want onto the plane.
Okay, so the weird issue with emotional support animal, on one hand, to make sure that they don't stress out the person with PTSD or disabled or who need the emotional support animal, by certain U.S. laws, you're not allowed to be turned away if they ask you if it's an emotional support animal. You don't even need to bring up any documentation or licenses. All you have to say is yes, it is, and the business owner is not supposed to do anything else. On the other hand, it leaves so much room for abuse when people start taking any pets, and so the one hand, it does lead to a lot of abuse in the system. And I think we did see it recently with one of the airlines. One of the quote-unquote emotional support animals actually attacked and bit another passenger.
Yeah, and that's part of the problem, like especially on an airplane. There's some situations where you can be a little lenient with it, even if you think like this is probably bogus, like they just want to bring their pet in or whatever. On an airplane, there has to be that extra bit of caution because there's so much that can, it's an enclosed environment. There's nowhere anyone else can go when you're on the plane. You have to be considerate of other people. And if you do have an emotional support animal, why does it need to be such a weird exotic thing? Like a cat isn't difficult, and it's going to cause a lot less issues than like your emotional support macaque or whatever that you're bringing onto the plane. So yeah, I don't know.
I have seen
it's a messy issue.
Well, there have been a few, like that one case where I think it was a Pakistani Harvard professor. She said that she had an allergic reaction to dogs, and she didn't want to be on the same plane. I think it was a Southwest flight with an emotional support dog. But so she sat in the back of the plane away from the dog, and then they came up to her and said, "Oh, you have to go." And she's like, "No, I'm fine." He's like, "You just told us you had a deadly reaction to the dog, so we need you off the plane." She's like, No, I'm fine now. But because she already said she had an allergic reaction to a dog, they had to remove her from the plane, even though she said she was fine afterwards.
Yeah, those regulations have a lot of weird, like unintended kind of. And the thing about allergies too is it really is like if it's a deadly thing, you can't be in the plane because the air is recirculating through the whole plane.
But
so,
if she didn't want to be forced out of the plane, I guess she should have just been quiet about that.
She should have just died with her allergy.
Yeah, she should. That meme. She just died. And then there's another YouTuber. I think he's a comedian with a stutter, but he has an emotional support dog, and it's a really, really fun channel to follow if you want to learn more about the rules of emotional support animals. But he does travel with his dog, but he doesn't have an extra seat for the dog, so his emotional support dog always sits in front of him. Where where your carry-on luggage normally would be. It's always in the front of his leg, and the passenger sitting next to him just did not want the dog in a space because the dog was so big. It did kind of take up 1.5 spaces, so the dog's butt was kind of on this other guy's space. And on one hand, I really felt bad for the comedian who needed this emotional support, and on the other hand, I did kind of feel bad for the guy too because he just lost a lot of leg room, and everyone was on the side for having the dog on the plane. So when he asked the attendant to come and see what they could do, they're like, "Well, you could either leave the plane or you had to deal with it." And I was like, "Oh, I guess that's kind of bad for him too." But yeah, it's kind of hard to deal with situations like that.
Flying has many issues. I can't wait to get on a plane soon to go to Bronycon. Oh boy.
So, speaking of that, let's get right into the Zootopia news. So yes, in the Zootopia news land, we have some new updates on Zootopia Land. So photos of construction coming out of the Shanghai Disney parks have been popping up online. If you look on Twitter and Instagram, there's a lot of pictures coming up. But we could see that construction has already started, and it's going to look very, very interesting, especially considering how successful the new Galaxy's Edge at Disneyland has been. We could kind of see, hopefully, the Shanghai part getting very, very similar reception when Zootopia Zootopia does open. And on the other news, Phoenix VA kind of hinted on Twitter that the sequel for Zootopia is indeed in the works. And I think it was him who also hinted that there might be a third movie in the works. So there potentially could be a Zootopia trilogy. Right now, the only confirmations we have on this is the VA for Phoenix kind of hinting it on Twitter. So nothing officially confirmed yet. But when it is, we will update you with that.
Yeah, I'm excited. There's no way they're not making a sequel at this point. I mean, it has to happen. It's just a matter of when. It's probably not going to be for like, I bet here, if I were to make a guess, I would have to say probably 2021. What do you think?
So the issue with the Disney-Fox merger now is when Disney was releasing like their own studio movies, they already owned Pixar, Marvel, Disney Animation, the Disney live-action movies, and Lucasfilm. So they already had a lot of movies they had to release. And now that they own Fox, so they own like a large percentage of movies that are being released now in theaters, the issue is they are now to the point of competing with themselves. So beforehand, you might say, well, money is money, but no, because the money it costs to produce these movies, now that these movies are competing with themselves, would mean that they're taking away business from other potential movies. So it seems like Disney has been needing to slim down their movies, because even with let's just think about the Marvel movies alone. There's at least like 2 or 3 Marvel movies a year, and that's already contentious for competing with each other. And then when you throw in every year there's also a Pixar movie, every year there's also a Disney animated movie, and every year there's also a Star Wars movie. Now you have Disney competing with all these different properties, and now that they own Fox, they have Blue Sky Animation, they have 20th Century Fox, they have Fox Searchlight, they have so much competition with each other. So if there was a Zootopia movie in the works, I could definitely see it being pushed back, because I don't know if the hype around Zootopia has been as large as Disney might want for doing a potential sequel. I do definitely know their focus on if there is going to be an animated sequel, it's going to be that Frozen 2 movie, which we already know is coming out because we've seen trailers for it. So yeah, interesting times.
Yeah.
All right. And in other news, we will be at Bronycon this year. Of course, Simul will be there as the fabulous Hoofbeats.
Yep, that's right. So as many of you who are fans of MLP may know, this upcoming Bronycon here in the first parts of August is going to be the final Bronycon. There's not going to be any more after that. Unfortunately, we are not going to be doing a Zootopia Minute panel there, but there are a few other things that we'll be involved in as well as just our individual things. I am the Hoofbeats mascot, so I'll be busy with that stuff. You guys can see me at the concerts and lots of different panels and ceremonies, and it'll be lots of fun. And Choco is vending, and you've got a few panels as well, don't you?
Yes, I'll be a vendor for my 7th and final Bronycon, since this is the last one wrapping things up. So you'll see me in the dealer's hall, but I'll also be a panelist as well, and we do have a panel together. We'll be doing our second version of Brony history. So we'll be doing our Brony fandom history panel. Right now, we do not have the times confirmed yet, but we will update you guys as we know when the times and dates are. I will also be doing a convention history panel, which should be a lot of fun, because I'm going to talk about the history of I'm going to talk a bit about my history book I've been working on that talks about the history of fandoms and conventions. And a very special panel I've been looking forward to doing for a long time now. I'm doing the Bronycon chair history discussion interview. So I will have almost all the previous con chairs for Bronycon on stage for in-depth discussion interview coming up. So that should be a really, really fun panel.
You just said history so many times. And
history.
Do you like history? Is there any chance that
I
you might be a little bit into
history.
history?
I do love history. Thank you very much.
It's happening now, all around us.
Exactly.
It's fun topics. Yeah, so at last BronyCon, we did our Brony fandom history panel. That was in the Hall of Chaos, which is their 18 plus, or I think it's 21 plus panel room, which we did not actually ask for. It was just put there for some reason. This time, it will not be in one of those rooms. It will be in one of the regular panel rooms, so those who are minors will also be able to join us for that panel as well, which is great, because there really wasn't anything adult-themed in that panel that we would have had to restrict that. So, I don't know. It's better this way.
However, if you are a minor, please leave your digging equipment and pickaxes at the door.
People come in here with their pickaxes and their canary cages and stuff, and, their canary keeps making a huge ruckus during the panel. It's just really inconsiderate. So, we're tolerant of minors, but but be mindful.
All right.
So that's basically going to do it for updates. We do want to just thank you guys again for being so patient. We know that, I mean, we say this every time there's cons stuff going on. You guys know it already. We're busy with cons. We're busy people outside of Zootopia Minute. So we do appreciate your patience with that. We do want to let you guys know this is going to be the last episode until after Bronycon, just because we both have a lot of work we need to do in preparation for that. And Choco, you've got to get all your merchandise ready and everything. So
I guess I should quickly plug that too. Aside from Bronycon, I'll be vending and doing panels at San Diego Comic-Con, potentially Otakon, Megaplex, which is the furry con down in Orlando by Disney World, and FursonaCon, which is a furry con in Virginia Beach.
FursonaCon, that's very specific.
I also might just be a regular attendee at PAX coming up, but I'm not completely sure yet. But I have a lot of cons on my plate.
Cool. All right. Yep. So this will be the last episode till after Bronycon. Thank you guys so much for being patient, and we can't wait to hear from you guys then. All right.
If you are a blue socialist donkey that has a lot of money and you're looking for a boyfriend, please give me a call, because I am open and looking for a blue socialist donkey to take me under its wing and have a free flight to Japan to where I could eat ramen. So, yeah.
What about the Democratic debates?
Oh, no. All right. I think we're done.
All
Good
right,
night,
let's
everybody.
end this. We're ending this podcast before we go there. All right. Cool. So thank you guys so much for listening. That is going to do it for this episode of Zootopia Minute. If you did enjoy the podcast, please be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel. You can also like us on Facebook, and you can follow us on Twitter at Zootopia Minute. You can also send us any of your thoughts, feedback, comments on the show, comments on anything we've said. You can send anything you'd like to zootopiaminute@gmail.com, and we'll be happy to respond to you there. All right, so with that is going to wrap it up until after Bronycon. Thank you guys so much for listening. We will see you later.
Bye-bye, everybody, and rock out.
See you soon.